You know that moment when everything you thought was solid just crumbles? Like watching a building come down floor by floor, not in chaos, but with this eerie precision. That's how it felt for me. Right there in my car, rain tapping softly on the roof like it was whispering secrets as they pulled up in those fancy rental SUVs. Fresh from their Hawaiian paradise, all smiles and sun-kissed skin, expecting to waltz back into the life they'd left behind. Marcus, my husband of 15 years, stepping out first, arm around Olivia like she was the prize he'd always deserved. My mom, Margaret, in that floral scarf she loves, raising her glass in the wedding photos they'd posted everywhere. My dad, Edward, looking a little lost but there. My sister Amelia, giggling over souvenirs, and my brother Logan hauling luggage like it was just another family trip. Their laughter faded the second they turned toward the curb, where our home should have been, that beautiful 1920s colonial I'd poured my soul into, the one that held our family's legacy, the house my parents left me before everything went sideways. There was nothing. Just an empty lot, sod freshly laid green and mocking under the grey Seattle sky. A little bench I'd had installed by the sidewalk, like a cruel joke. Rest here and reflect. The rain picked up, soaking their clothes, their plans, their perfect little narrative. Marcus froze, mouth half open. Olivia's shopping bag slipped from her fingers, spilling seashells across the wet grass. Margaret clutched Edward's arm, her voice rising sharp and shrill. "Edward! Where's the house? Where's everything?" I sat there across the street, engine humming low, a thermos of black coffee warm in my hands, watching, smiling just a little. Not out of spite, at least not all spite, more like the quiet satisfaction of a plan finally clicking into place. Because 15 years ago, when Marcus and I said our vows in that same backyard, I never imagined I'd be the one burying it all. But he did. Or at least, that's what his text said, right from the altar in Hawaii. "Don't be home when we get back. Once you're old, you're dead to me." Sent at 2:17 p.m. Hawaiian time with a photo attached. Him in a linen suit I'd never seen, Olivia in white lace that screamed second chance. And behind them, my entire family, champagne flutes raised, beaming like this was the reunion we'd all been waiting for. I stared at that photo for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds to let the words sink in, to zoom in on my mum's smile, the same one she'd flashed at my wedding, back when things felt possible. 3 seconds before I looked up and saw it. Across from my office downtown, the demolition crew tearing down an old warehouse, methodical, no explosions, just excavators peeling away layers, section by section. Dust rising like ghosts in the drizzle, controlled, precise. And in that instant, clarity hit me like the first real rain of the season. They wanted me gone? Fine. But I'd make sure there was nothing left to come back to. Not the house. Not the $2 million legacy fund my parents had built for me, the one Marcus had his eyes on for years. I'd bury it all. Rebuild on my terms. Let me back up a bit because you deserve the full picture. I'm Isabella Reed, 42, a family law attorney here in Seattle. The kind who fights for the underdogs in messy divorces, the ones who get walked over because they trusted too much. Ironic, right? I'd built my career on protecting legacies, those tangled webs of assets, trusts and histories that people fight tooth and nail over. And our home? It was mine before Marcus ever walked into my life. Bought it through my LLC 3 years before the wedding, with the inheritance from my folks. Renovated every inch myself. Shiplap walls, that clawfoot tub in the master bath, the garden where I'd plant tulips every spring, dreaming of kids who never came. Marcus always said, "Timing's not right yet, babe. Let's build the nest egg first." Yeah, the nest egg he was eyeing for his escape hatch, 15 years. God, it sounds like a lifetime when you say it out loud. We met at a networking event. Me, fresh out of law school, all ambition and no time for nonsense. Him, This charming fund manager with a smile that could close deals over bad coffee. He swept me off my feet, or so I thought. Dinners in Pioneer Square, weekends hiking the Olympics, promises whispered under the covers about growing old in that house. But looking back now, through the lens of that text, I see the cracks everywhere. The late nights at the office that smelled like hotel soap. The anniversaries he bailed on for client emergencies. The way he'd scroll his phone during family dinners, chuckling at messages I pretended not to notice. And Olivia? She wasn't some wide-eyed intern. 32, sharp as a tack with that polished look. Blonde bob, pencil skirts, the works. I'd met her once at the firm holiday party 2 years back. She was Marcus's new assistant, all polite handshakes and, "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Reed." I even thought she was harmless, maybe a little lost in the corporate grind. Turns out she was from old Seattle money. Her dad's in tech imports, the kind of family that summered in the San Juans. Marcus posted the wedding pics publicly on Instagram. Starting fresh in paradise. With the people who truly matter. The people who matter, not me. I was back here, buried in case files for the biggest custody battle of my career, the one that would make my name in family law circles, while he planned his forever on my dime. My phone buzzed again that afternoon, rain blurring the windshield as I drove home. No, not home anymore. To the empty shell of what used to be ours. It was a notification from the family group chat, the one I'd been kicked out of last week. Amelia posting, "Best vacay ever. There's her vibes." Logan chiming in with a thumbs-up emoji. Margaret, "So proud of you both. Wishing you endless sunsets, Dad? Just a heart. Silent as always." I pulled into the driveway, or what was left of it, gravel crunching under tyres, and sat there, engine off, letting the quiet settle. The house loomed in the fading light, windows dark like empty eyes. This place wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was the legacy my parents left me after Dad's heart attack 5 years in, Mum selling off their old place to fund the trust, whispering to me, "Build something lasting, Isabella." For you, I'd done that. Turned it into a sanctuary, even when Marcus stopped seeing it as home. But now, it felt like a tomb. And as thunder rumbled distant over the sound, I knew it was time to bury it. That night I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I opened my laptop, pulled up the property deeds, the trust documents, the post-nup Victoria had made him sign 8 years ago when I expanded the firm. He'd skimmed it, annoyed, phone in hand. "Whatever makes you happy, Izzy." Happy. Right. By dawn, I had a list, timelines, assets, calls to make. And at the top, Victoria's number. Because if Marcus thought I was dead to him, well, I'd make sure his legacy died first. But here's the thing. Deep down, in that quiet space where regrets whisper, I wondered if burying it all would free me or just leave a bigger hole. Little did I know the real secrets waiting in that house would change everything. Oh, that first night. It wasn't sleep that found me, but a kind of restless clarity, the kind that sneaks in when the world's gone quiet and your mind won't let go. I turned off the lights in the kitchen, the one with the copper pots hanging like forgotten promises, and just sat there with a glass of red, the bottle Marcus and I had saved for our 20th, tucked away in the pantry like some joke on time. The house creaked around me, settling into the damp Seattle evening, and I let myself wander back. Not to the good parts, though there were those too, the lazy Sundays with coffee on the porch, his hand in mine during that trip to the San Juans, the way he'd surprised me with takeout after a brutal trial. No, I went straight to the fractures, the ones I'd papered over with work and hope. Day one dawned grey, like the city itself was holding its breath. I woke on the couch, neck stiff, phone clutched in my hand like a lifeline. The text from Marcus stared back at me, that photo frozen in time. I scrolled through our shared album instead, 15 years in pixels, a digital scrapbook of what we'd built, or what I'd built and he'd borrowed. There we were at our wedding, me in ivory lace, him looking at me like I was the only horizon that mattered. 5 years in, that hike in the Cascades, his arm around my waist as we watched the sun dip behind the peaks. But then the shifts. 10 years ago, Christmas at the house, him checking emails under the tree while I unwrapped books I'd bought myself. Last summer, our anniversary getaway to Whidbey Island, he'd spent half the ferry ride on calls, vanishing for a quick meeting that stretched into dinner alone. It hit me then, slow and heavy, like fog rolling in off the Sound. This wasn't new. The distance, the distractions, it had been eroding us for years. And Olivia? I pulled up her LinkedIn, the one she'd updated just last month. Not some fresh-faced assistant scraping by. 32, Vassar grad, daddy's girl from a tech dynasty. Her father ran imports out of Bellevue, the kind of money that bought yachts and silence. Twist of the knife. I'd represented her family once, 5 years back, in a nasty estate dispute. Olivia had been there, wide-eyed in the gallery, thanking me after we won. "You're a lifesaver, Mrs. Reed." And Marcus? He'd been my +1 at the celebratory dinner, charming her dad over scotch. Had he seen her then across the room and started plotting? The thought twisted in my gut, but I didn't let it linger. Anger was fuel, not a chain. I needed action. By noon I was in my home office, the one I'd carved out of the sunroom, walls lined with case law and that Fern Marcus always forgot to water. I dialed Victoria Langford, my rock in the storm of family law. We'd met a decade ago, her handling mergers while I did the messy human stuff, and she'd become the sister I wished Amelia could be. Fierce, no nonsense, with a laugh like gravel and gin. She picked up on the first ring. "Isabella?" "Talk to me." I didn't sugarcoat it. The text, the wedding, the family parade. Her end went silent for a beat, then... Bastard. "How fast can we move?" I glanced at the calendar. 8 days till their flight landed. 7. Make it airtight. Victoria's chuckle was low, predatory, the sound of someone who'd dismantled more marriages than most people had Thanksgivings. "Consider it done. Meet me tomorrow 7 a.m. We'll gut this thing like a bad prenup." Hanging up, I felt the first real spark, not rage, but power. Like flipping a switch in a dark room. But power's a tricky thing. It warms you, sure, but it can burn if you hold it too close. That afternoon I started the inventory. Laptop open, spreadsheets pulling from our joint accounts, the LLC filings for the house. The numbers didn't lie. 15 years my deposits, $820,000 from trials won, bonuses stacked, the firm's growth. Marcus, 4,200, $4,000, change from a coffee run. The house, titled to Reed Legal Holdings, bought pre-marriage with Mom and Dad's trust, had seen 0 from him. No mortgage contributions, no tax hits, not even the new roof after that storm 2 winters back. The legacy fund? $2 million, seeded by their life insurance payout after Dad's passing, managed through my firm. Marcus had access, all right, enough to siphon fees for his side gigs, but I'd locked it down with that postnup he'd signed half asleep. Pro tip. If you're listening and this hits a little too close, inventory your assets every year. Not just for taxes, for this. For the day the mask slips and you see the math of love for what it is. It saved me. Or at least it started to. Day 2 blurred into motion, the kind that keeps grief at bay. I boxed up Marcus's things first. His monogrammed cufflinks, the golf clubs gathering dust in the garage, that vintage watch I'd gifted him for our 10th, the one he never wore. Methodical, like prepping a deposition, no tears, just the soft thud of cardboard flaps closing. But when I cleared his desk drawer, the one with the fake bottom insert I'd noticed months ago but ignored, there it was. A manila folder, edges worn, labelled personal. Inside, prints of emails, timestamps from last year. Him to Olivia. The trust's ripe. Once we tie the knot, I'll leverage the house equity. Easy mill, maybe more. She won't fight. 2 buried in cases. My hands went steady as I scanned them. Forged signatures on a mortgage app. My LLC stamp, my John Hancock, all faked in crisp ink. He'd tried to pull a second lien, list the house as joint, funnel it to some offshore account. Denied, thank God. The title search caught it. But the intent? That was theft wrapped in betrayal. I photographed every page, forwarded to Victoria with a note. Add fraud to the filing. Her reply pinged back. Oh, honey, this is checkmate. By evening, the house felt lighter. Emptier, yeah, but in a way that breathed. I walked the room slow, trailing fingers over the wainscoting I'd chosen. The chandelier Mum had hung with me the week after Dad died. This is your foundation, Isabella, she'd said then, her voice softer than usual. Foundation, legacy. Words she'd thrown like barbs later, when my hours got long and Marcus started pulling away. You're too cold, too focused. No wonder he's distant. But that night, alone with the ghosts, I let myself remember the girl I'd been, 8 years old, hiding in the attic during their fights, vowing I'd build something unbreakable. Law school on scholarships, the firm from scratch, this house as my anchor. I'd done that. And Marcus? He'd just been along for the ride. Day 3, and the plan sharpened. Coffee black, no cream, fuel for the fire. I spent the morning on calls, researching demolition outfits. Westbrook Demolition popped first. 5 stars, a rep for surgical takedowns on historic properties. Their site had videos, excavators like gentle giants, peeling back decades without a whimper. I dialed. Got a receptionist who sighed. Booked through spring. Name your price for a rush, I said. Full tear down, permits by noon tomorrow. I'll handle the red tape. Silence, then a transfer to Derek, the foreman. His voice came gravelly, laced with cigarettes and sawdust. Ma'am, that's not how Seattle works. Zoning board's a nightmare. I'm Isabella Reed, family law. I've argued half the appeals in King County. You owe me from that pro bono on the waterfront last year. He paused, grunted. The Reed?
Hell, address?
I gave it. That colonial? Solid bones. You sure? Sure as the rain falling outside my window. Positive. Start Friday. 55 grand wired today. Click. Deal. The afternoon. Networking magic. Emails to old colleagues. Judges I'd briefed, clerks who'd fast-tracked filings. By 4 p.m. permits were drafting. But as the sun dipped low, painting the walls gold, the doubts crept in. Not about the plan, that felt right, necessary, about me. That little girl in the attic, burying hurts under books and dreams. Mum's voice echoed. Always so independent, Isabella. Like you don't need anyone. Maybe she was right. Maybe that's why I'd let Marcus in. Let the family lean without asking back. The phone rang then, shattering the quiet. Logan's name on the screen. My baby brother, 28, still crashing on couches between gigs. Izzy? Hey, wild trip, huh? Hawaii's insane. His voice light, too light, like he was reading a script. Background chatter, waves, laughter. Logan, what's this about? A pause then, just... Marcus said you're cool with it. The wedding and all. But can you wire me a couple grand? Job fell through again. I closed my eyes, the weight settling. Cool with it? He told you that? Another beat. Yeah, and... Wait, is that Olivia laughing? Logan, where are you? He stammered, but it was too late. Her voice cut through clear as a bell. Tell her congrats on the amicable split, babe. The line went dead. Logan knew, all along. And Olivia? She'd been in the loop, pulling strings from paradise. Victoria's words echoed, we'll build a new life in 7 days. But as I set the phone down, heart pounding, not with hurt but with something fiercer, I realised this wasn't just about burying the house. It was about unearthing the truths they'd tried to keep me under. You ever stand at the edge of something irreversible, heart steady but your breath catching just the same? That's day 4 for me, pulling up to the house in that old wool coat, the one Mum gave me after Dad's funeral, smelling faintly of lavender and loss. The air hung heavy with petrichor, that earthy promise of storm, and I could feel it in my bones. Once this started, there'd be no undoing the dust. Derek was already there when I arrived, his truck splashed with mud, toolbox clanging as he unloaded gear. Mid-50s, built like the sites he'd torn apart. Broad shoulders under a faded flannel, eyes sharp behind wire rims. He'd been an architect once, he told me later over lukewarm coffee from my thermos, before the market crashed and he traded blueprints for bulldozers. Easier to break than build sometimes, he'd said, surveying the colonial with a builder's eye. Great lines here. Victorian echoes. You could flip this for $3 million, easy. I handed him the permits, freshly stamped courtesy of a judge who'd owed me from that custody win last spring, and watched his brow furrow. You weren't kidding about the rush? 55,000 wired that morning, no questions. He shook my hand, calluses rough as truth, and nodded toward the crew milling by the fence. We'll stage it gentle. Windows first, then internals. Wrecking arm on the east wall at dawn. You want to watch? I met his gaze, rain beading on my lashes. Wouldn't miss it. As he walked away, clipboard in hand, I lingered on the porch steps, tracing the grain of the wood I'd sanded myself. This wasn't just demolition. It was declaration. But oh, the quiet ache of it, the way the wind tugged at the shutters like it knew what was coming. By midday, the real work kicked in. Not the hammers yet, but the unravelling. I met Alexander Hale at a cafe in Capitol Hill, neutral ground, exposed brick and the hum of baristas calling orders, the kind of place Marcus always griped was too hipster for his tastes. Alexander was old-school Seattle money, 70s with a silver mane and hands that still smelled like cedar from his development firm. We'd crossed paths at galas, him praising my pro bono work on affordable housing trusts. This lot, I said, sliding the deed across the scarred oak table. Prime Queen Anne. Historic zoning cleared. 2.2 mil closing today. He adjusted his glasses, scanning the docs. Title clean, no liens, my LLC stamped bold. Hell of a deal, Isabella. What's the catch? I sipped my latte, foam bitter on my tongue. No catch. Just time for a change. He signed without another word, wire transfer pinging my phone before the foam melted. 2.2 million. Safe, mine. The legacy fund, liquidated in a breath, flowing into accounts he'd never touch. That rush, the ping of freedom, carried me home, but it cracked open the doubts too. Harper called as I pulled into the driveway, her voice cutting through the speaker like a lifeline. My best friend since law school, the therapist who'd talked me off ledges after bad verdicts, her brownstone in Fremont always smelling of sage and chamomile tea. Izzy, talk now. I didn't fight it. 20 minutes later, she was at the door, arms full of Thai takeout and that bottle of Pinot we'd cracked after my bar exam. We settled in the living room, cross-legged on the rug I'd woven in Mexico on our girls' trip, the one Marcus had bowed out of for work. The food steamed between us, but neither touched it. She listened first. All nods and soft mm-hms as I spilled. The text. The photo, Logan's call, the folder of forgeries. Her eyes widened at the fraud, but when I got to the demo plans, she set her fork down. Isabella, this is extreme. You're not just leaving him. You're erasing the life you built. What if you regret it? Her words landed gentle, but they stung, stirring that old echo from childhood. Me at 12, hiding report cards from Mum's scrutiny, whispering to Dad in the garage. Am I enough? He'd ruffle my hair, voice low. You're everything, kiddo. Don't let 'em tell you different. But he never said it loud enough for her to hear. I looked at Harper, her face lit soft by the lamp, and felt the confession rise unbidden. I've been burying pieces of me since I was little, Harp, to keep the peace. To hold the family together. This legacy? It was supposed to be my safe place. But Marcus, he turned it into a cage, and now, I'm done being the one who bends. She reached for my hand, squeeze firm. Then don't bend. But promise me, after the dust settles, you'll let someone in. Not to fix you, just to sit with you. We talked till the rain eased, her stories of clients who'd torched bridges and found peace on the other side. Healing tip, if you're carrying your own hidden weights, journal the pains you bury. Not for answers, but for air. Let them breathe before the wrecking ball swings. It freed something in me that night, made the plan feel less like vengeance and more like reclamation. Day 5 broke with a rumble, the kind that vibrates through your chest. I was up before the crew, jeans and boots, coffee steaming in the chill. Derek's team rolled in at 6 sharp, 3 trucks, lights cutting the fog, excavators humming like impatient beasts. Neighbours peeked from curtains, Mrs. Ellis next door, pruning her hydrangeas with that nosy tilt to her head. The young couple across the street pausing mid-jog. "Renovation?" Mrs. Ellis called, robe flapping as she hurried over. I smiled, thermos in hand.
Full refresh.
Starting fresh. She nodded, eyes on the gear, but said nothing more. Smart woman. The first swing came at 7, the wrecking arm, that massive steel jaw, connected with the east wall, the one where Marcus hung his abstract prints, the art he'd bought to impress clients but never explained. The impact echoed like thunder, wood splintering, plaster sighing as it gave way. Dust bloomed in the mist, and I stood there unmoving, feeling the ground tremble under my feet. No tears, just this hollow whoosh like exhaling after holding your breath too long. Floor by floor it came down, methodical, almost tender. The kitchen next, cabinets I'd hand-painted sage green crumbling into rubble, the island where we'd shared our first real meal, pad thai from the corner spot, laughing over nothing. Gone. By noon, the second story groaned and folded, roof tiles sliding like forgotten secrets. I watched it all, rain mixing with the grit on my skin, until Derek clapped a hand on my shoulder. "You good?" His voice rough but kind. I nodded, throat tight. "Lighter?" Yeah, that's what it was. Lighter. But lighter can mean empty too. And as the crew broke for lunch, trucks idling, I wondered if I'd cleared space for something new, or just echoes. That afternoon, the clean-up crew hauled in, front loaders scooping debris like scooping out a wound. I didn't stay for all of it. Drove to the office instead, files waiting, but my mind wandered to the letter. I'd started it the night before, words spilling onto cream stationery by lamplight. Dear Mum. It poured out, the loneliness of being the strong one, the way her criticisms landed like rain on parched earth, eroding what little confidence Dad tried to build. How she'd sided with Marcus in every spat, whispering I'd drive him away with my hours, my drive. And the wedding. You chose his new chapter over your daughter's breaking one. I sealed it, address inked careful, but tucked it in my bag. Not yet. Some truths need the right storm. Day 6, and the world outside kept spinning, oblivious. I woke in the guest room, my new temporary nest, sheets crisp from the linen closet, to notifications piling up. Marcus's Instagram feed, a shrine to paradise. Him and Olivia on a catamaran, her head on his shoulder, sunset bleeding pink over the waves. Caption: New chapter with the ones who truly matter. Grateful. The likes rolled in. Amelia's heart eyes, Logan's fire emoji, Mum's beautiful souls. Endless blessings. Dad? A quiet like. I scrolled, thumb hovering, then closed the app. Grateful. Right. For the life I'd funded. The roof he'd slept under while plotting his exit. The day blurred into loose ends. Cars repossessed. His Audi. My seldom-driven hybrid. Both LLC assets now tucked in a secure lot. Joint accounts drained. Every cent of my sweat funneled to a new trust under Victoria's watch. I left him the $4,000 wired neat fares fare. But as evening fell, fog thick off the water, that text from Olivia lingered in my mind. The one from last night slipped through after Logan's call. I know everything about Marcus. We share an enemy. Call if you want to talk strategy. Strategy. From the woman who'd stolen my husband. It sat there, unread, a snake coiled in my inbox. Part of me wanted to delete it, let the bridges burn clean. But another, the lawyer in me, the survivor, whispered, what if she's the wild card? I poured a glass of that Pinot, stood at the window overlooking the empty lot, already graded smooth, ready for whatever came next. The crew would finish hauling tomorrow. They'd land at SeaTac by 4. And me? I'd be there, thermos in hand, ready to watch the real demolition, the one where illusions shatter louder than any wall. But as the fog swallowed the streetlights, Harper's words echoed soft. Promise you'll let someone in. I pulled out the letter to Dad instead, the one I'd drafted in the margins, short and raw. You always saw me. Thank you. Sealed it too. Maybe tomorrow after the dust. I'd mail it. Or maybe, just maybe, I'd hand it over myself. And just like that, the fog lifted. Not the literal kind clinging to the evergreens, but the one in my chest. The haze of what-ifs that had kept me tethered too long. Day 7 arrived with a deceptive calm, the sky that washed out blue Seattle saves for moments like these, as if daring you to believe in clear tomorrows. I'd barely slept, tossing in the guest bed with the letter to Dad clutched under my pillow like a talisman. Victoria's filing had gone through at midnight, divorce petition airtight, fraud counts stacked like evidence in a trial I'd win blindfolded. The papers would hit Marcus's office tomorrow, served with his morning espresso right in front of his team. Olivia included. But today was for the show. The real one, where the audience arrives expecting applause and gets silence instead. I dressed deliberate. Black wool suit. The power armour I'd worn to my first big win. Heels that clicked like closing arguments on marble. Thermos-filled, black and strong. No cream to soften the edge. By noon I was parked across from the lot, engine off, the new sod gleaming unnaturally green under sporadic sun. The bench sat innocent by the sidewalk, engraved subtle. From ruins, rise. A touch I'd added yesterday, anonymous through a local artisan, nothing flashy, just enough to make the emptiness feel intentional. Like the space had always been waiting for this. My phone tracked their flight. Wheels down at SeaTac, 2:35 p.m. Customs bags. Those 3 gleaming SUVs Marcus had bragged about in his stories. Coming home in style. Babe. His words from a voice note last week, before the wedding feed went live. Style. On whose dime? The clock ticked merciless. 3:15. Text from Harper. Checking in. You got this. Call after. 4:02. The first SUV purred onto the street, black and polished, followed by the others like a funeral cortege in reverse. I sank lower in the seat, heart a steady drum, not racing, prepared. They piled out laughing, voices carrying over the damp air, Amelia with a lei around her neck, still humming some luau tune, Logan juggling duty-free bags, grinning like he'd won the lottery. Mom in that floral scarf fussing over Edward's collar. Darling, you look exhausted. Jet lag's a beast. And there, centre stage, Marcus, linen shirt rumpled from travel, arm slung casual around Olivia's waist. She leaned into him, sundress fluttering, that rock on her finger catching the light like a taunt. The chatter died as they turned. Marcus first, mid-step toward the non-existent driveway, his body locking up like a glitch in the Matrix. What the... Olivia followed his gaze, her laugh cutting short, hand flying to her mouth. The bags hit the ground, seashells scattering again, Amelia's lei tangling in the grass. Mum's voice pierced the hush, sharp as a gavel. Edward! Edward, look, where's the house? This can't... She grabbed his arm, nails digging, her face draining to ash. Logan dropped everything, mouth agape. Amelia sank to her knees, phone slipping from her fingers into a puddle. Edward just stood. Eyes on the empty plot, then lifting slow to the bench, like he was piecing together a puzzle he'd long suspected. Marcus spun, wild-eyed, checking the mailbox, our numbers still etched there, mocking. "This isn't right. There was a house here. Our house." His voice cracked on our, rising to a shout that echoed off the neighbours' facades. Mrs. Ellis emerged then, watering can in hand, pretending shock but lingering. Alexander Hale, pure chance driving by on his way to a site, slowed his truck window down. "Everything all right, folks?" Marcus whirled on him, veins bulging. "What did you do to my home?" "Who the hell are you?" Alexander raised his hands, calm as a deposition. "Bought this lot yesterday. Clean title, empty as advertised. You must have the wrong address." He pulled up the listing on his phone, fresh sod, development potential, holding it out like Exhibit A. Mum was hyperventilating now, clutching her scarf. Amelia sobbed quiet, mascara streaking. That's when she saw me. Mum's head snapped up, eyes locking through my windshield. "Isabella!" Not a call, a curse, raw and unravelling. "What have you done?" The word hung, pulling them all around like gravity. I took a slow sip of coffee, set the thermos down deliberate, and stepped out. The door clicked shut behind me, heels sinking slight into the wet grass as I crossed the street. Not rushing, not fleeing, just present. 6 feet away. I stopped, close enough for the details. Marcus's flush creeping up his neck, Olivia's knuckles white on her bag, Logan's averted gaze, Amelia's trembling shoulders. Edward met my eyes first, something soft flickering there, unspoken. "Hey everyone," I said, voice even, like we'd bumped into each other at the market. "How was Hawaii? Sunsets as stunning as the posts?" Marcus's face cycled, confusion to fury, disbelief cracking through. You did this?" He lunged a step, but Olivia's grip held him, her eyes wide, calculating. I tilted my head, rain fresh air cool on my skin. "Did what exactly?" "Sell my business asset. The house titled to Reed Legal Holdings before we married. Or liquidate the legacy fund you never touched beyond fees." I pulled my phone, folder open. Deeds, post-nup scans that forged mortgage app glowing. "Per Washington state law in the agreement you signed. Remember? You were scrolling stocks while Victoria explained it. You contributed nothing. 0 claim. I left you the $4,000. Fair's fair." Mom surged forward, face twisted, rage laced with that old fear, the one she'd worn when Dad's will read my name on the trust. "Isabella Reed, you fix this now. This is family legacy. We helped, paint weekends, the garden." I cut her off gentle but firm, like redirecting a witness. "Helped. Mom, I have receipts. 15 years. Roof, taxes, the full reno after the flood, $180,000 from my firm. You visited for holidays, ate the meals I cooked after 14-hour days, told me I was too ambitious to keep a man." "And the wedding?" I nodded to Olivia, who stiffened. "You toasted their future. In my parents' house. While I was home alone, building cases to fund it all." Silence fell thick, broken only by Amelia's sniffle. Logan shifted, mumbling, "Izzy, come on." "This is nuts." "Nuts?" I turned to him, voice dropping cool. Like knowing about the affair for months and staying silent. Because Marcus promised a job hookup. Or the 60 grand tuition I covered when Mum and Dad couldn't. The 10K checks to Amelia for her fresh starts? Consider it repaid with interest. Lesson 1. Don't bury your sister while digging your own grave. He flushed crimson, looking away, and Amelia whispered, "We didn't know he'd text that. About you being gone." I held up the screenshot, the words glaring. "Once you're old, you're dead to me." They all saw it. The guilt hung visible, a shroud. Olivia found her voice then, stepping forward, chin high. "You're unhinged. This is criminal, vindictive, pathetic." Marcus nodded, frantic, emboldened. "Yeah, I'll sue Isabella. Take it all, house, fund, everything." I smiled faint, thumbing to the audio file. Before you do, listen to this. Recorded 6 months back, on his open laptop. I hit play, volume up just enough for the street. Marcus's voice, tinny but unmistakable. Don't sweat it, love. Once I flip the trust equity, we're golden. She'll sign anything, too buried in briefs to notice. Olivia's laugh, light and laced with something sharper. You're wicked. But I love it. Next year, our spot in the Caymans. Her slaving away, us living real. The recording cut and the air went electric. Their faces, oh, the poetry of it. Mum's hand to her mouth, eyes darting. Amelia frozen, tears fresh. Logan pale, jaw slack. Edward's gaze hardened, shifting to Marcus like he'd finally seen the fraud. But Olivia? She didn't flinch. No shock, no gasp, just a smile. Slow, knowing. She turned to Marcus, slipping her arm free. You hear that, darling? Our spot. Funny how you forgot to mention the prenup. Marcus blinked, confusion rippling. What prenup? Babe, what are you? She laughed then, real and cutting, pulling a folded paper from her bag, their marriage docs, highlighted yellow. Daddy's lawyers insisted. You get zilch if it ends, Marcus. No trust access, no alimony. And the fraud? That mortgage play? Her eyes met mine, steady. I knew from the start. Saw the emails when you left your phone at my place. You think I married you for love? After what you pulled on my father, siphoning his import deals, ghosting when the SEC sniffed around? Twist of the knife deeper than I'd dreamed. Olivia's family case, the one I'd won? Marcus had been the shadow consultant, skimming fees, vanishing when heat came. She'd baited him, the wedding a trap to expose him, publicly, painfully. We do share an enemy, she said to me, voice low. But this? Your demolition, inspired. Marcus staggered back, legs buckling till he hit the curb, head in hands. No. Olivia, wait. But she was already stepping away, dialing her phone. Daddy's line, no doubt. Mom wailed, This is madness! Isabella, you've ruined us all. I looked at her, the woman who'd raised me on critiques and conditions, and felt pity almost. Ruined or revealed? You chose his chapter over mine. Now write your own. Edward moved then, slow, placing a hand on her shoulder, not to steady her but to still himself. His eyes found mine, whispering hoarse, Daughter. I'm proud. Finally. The words landed soft, a balm on old scars, and for a breath, the world narrowed to just us, father and fighter, legacies aligning. I turned for the car, adrenaline humming like live wire, rain starting again in earnest. Enjoy the Holiday Inn on Aurora, I called over my shoulder. Vacancies galore. The door clicked shut, engine purring to life, and in the rear view I caught it. Edward waving, subtle, a promise in the gesture. But as I pulled away, tyres hissing on wet pavement, the real secret stirred, the one from Mum's old trunk, the legacy not just funds but letters, Dad's hidden notes to me all those years. The boomerang of betrayal, it turns out, hits hardest when you least expect. The drive back blurred through the wiper's rhythm, rain sluicing down like it was washing away the last threads of who I'd been, the woman who'd waited, who'd forgiven, who'd built walls around her heart thinking they'd keep the hurt out. Instead, they'd kept me in. 3 blocks, and I had to pull over, hands white on the wheel, not shaking from fear but from the raw surge of it all. Adrenaline, yes, but laced with something purer. Release. The kind that leaves you hollow at first, staring at the dashboard like it's a mirror to the empty lot you'd just created. I sat there 10 minutes, breathing deliberate, fogging the glass until the world outside softened to shapes. No triumph parade in my head, no villain's cackle, just quiet, the kind that follows a storm when the thunder's gone but the air hums with what's left. Day 9 crept in soft sunlight fracturing through the blinds of my new place, a sleek 1-bedroom overlooking Puget Sound, rented sight unseen on day 3, furnished with pieces that felt like placeholders, neutral linens, a desk facing the water, no echoes of us. I'd moved the essentials in a haze, my law books, that fern from the office, the copper mug for morning coffee. It smelled of fresh paint and possibility, but stepping inside I felt the weight of the silence. No creaking floors, no garden view, just waves lapping distant, a reminder that everything shifts given time and tide. My phone? A battlefield. 63 missed calls by lunch. Mum's voicemails, voice cracking with fury. "You've destroyed this family, Isabella. I hope you're proud, alone in your success." Amelia's texts, frantic loops. "Sis, please. We can fix this. Call me." Logan. "This isn't you. You're cruel now. Hope it was worth it." Marcus, the kicker. "You'll regret this." "I'll bury you in court, everything you have." "Olivia?" Radio silence, but a news alert pinged mid-afternoon. Tech airs sudden divorce filing. Fraud allegations surface. Her trap sprung wide open. Schadenfreude flickered, brief as a match, then faded. Not joy, just justice. I blocked them all, one swipe at a time, numbers blurring into irrelevance like deleting old case files. Except Dad's. His message sat unread, a quiet beacon. "Izzy, if you're seeing this, know I didn't know the full story. But I see you now. Coffee?" I thumbed a reply before I could overthink. "Tomorrow. Capitol Hill, 10 a.m. Then the letters. I pulled them from my bag. Mum's, heavy with unsaid hurts. Dad's, lighter, a bridge maybe. Slid Mum's into a drawer unaddressed. Dad's. I sealed it proper, dropped it in the mail chute downstairs. Some truths wait for the right season. We met the next morning, that same cafe with the brick walls and overpriced lattes, steam curling from our cups like unspoken apologies. Edward looked unburdened. Grey at the temples, more silver now, sweater soft under his coat, not Mum's pick, his own. He hugged me first, awkward but real, the kind of embrace that lingers past polite. "You look strong," he said, settling into the booth. No preamble. We ordered, his black, mine with a splash of almond, and the words came slow at first, then steady. About the wedding. "Your mum said it was mutual, Izzy, that you'd agreed. I wanted to believe her." His eyes, the same hazel as mine, dropped to his mug. "But I saw the cracks long before. The way she'd pick at you, the silence I'd let grow. After your grandma passed, that trust she left you, the real legacy, not the one we muddled. I fought for it to go straight to you. Mum never knew." The secret landed gentle, a missing piece clicking home. Grandma's letters, tucked in that attic trunk I'd found as a girl. Notes of fierce love. Warnings about men who take without giving. Dad had hidden them, slipped them to me over years, building my armour in whispers. "I failed you out loud," he said, voice thick. "But I'm here now, if you'll have me." I squeezed his hand across the scarred wood, the warmth seeping through. "I will." Not forgiveness full-blown, that takes seasons, but a start. We talked 2 hours. My childhood hides, his regrets in the garage, dreams deferred. No fixes, just presence. And as we parted, rain threatening again, he paused at the door. "Proud of you, kiddo. For unburying yourself." The words stuck, a seed in cracked soil. 6 months slipped by like tide pools filling, then ebbing, days of hollow echoing into stronger swells. The lot? Transformed into eternal rise, my design. 6 townhomes, affordable units for single mums navigating divorces, funded from the sale. Ground broke in January, under crisp skies, and I mentored the architect, a sharp 29-year-old named Lena, all fire and fresh bruises from her own split. "Protect the prenup," I'd tell her over sketches. "List assets quarterly. And journal the pains, let 'em air out before they fester." My firm? Boomed. Features in Seattle met, from demolition to destiny, the Reed legacy. Clients poured in, women with eyes like mine had been, wary, wounded, ready to rebuild. Harper and I claimed Sundays, walks along the locks. Her sage tea steaming, no pity, just, "I'm glad you're here." Lighter talks, laughs that didn't catch on old thorns. Edward became monthly ritual, dinners at his new spot in Ballard, a cosy walk-up with river views and bookshelves he'd finally filled. Separated from Mum by spring, she was in counselling, he said, but that was her chapter. We didn't pry, just shared, his woodworking hobby unearthed, my plans for a New York satellite office. Amelia and Logan? Faded to holiday cards, polite distance. The bridges burned, stayed ash. Some fires clear the underbrush for better growth. Then, late April, a Tuesday humdrum till it wasn't. Phone buzzed, unknown number. Isabella, it's Marcus. Time heals. We both messed up. Coffee? Talk? I stared 3 seconds, the old reflex, thumb hovering like it remembered mercy. Flashed to the text, the photo, the curb where he'd crumpled. To the woman I'd been, hopeful to a fault. That Isabella? Buried, gone. I typed slow. Sorry. Once buried, stays buried. Funny how that works. Blocked. Set the phone down, poured Pinot into that copper mug and stepped to the window. The sound stretched dark and deep, ferries cutting white wakes, city lights winking like conspirators. The demolition hadn't just taken a house. It had unearthed me. Harder edges, yes, but honest ones. More guarded with trust, but generous with my own worth. Alone? Sure. But not lonely. Not anymore. I raised the glass to the reflection, staring back. 42, fierce, foundations fresh. To legacies reclaimed, not stolen. To the quiet power of saying enough. And if you're here carrying your own rubble, remember the empty space. It's not loss. It's invitation. What will you build there? If this tale of buried betrayals and bold rebirths left you breathless, hit that like hard. Tell me in the comments, what legacy would you unbury first? Subscribe bell on for more blueprints to rise from the ruins. You've got this. We all do.